What if Neo was in MHA? Chapter 8. The Aftermath. Young Midoriya. No, All Might yelled. All Might then rushed to Izuku's side. He grabbed hold of what was left of his left arm to slow the blood loss. Neo then came to the scene. She took off one of her belts and wrapped it around what was left of Izuku's arm. She then looked around for the rest of Izuku's arm, but it was nowhere to be seen. Neo then looked at All Might, tears in her eyes. All Might could tell from Neo's face what she wanted to say. Get him out of here. All Might quickly took off. Neo turned back to the others, they were all stunned with shock. Neo stared daggers at Cinder. Cinder had only feared one person in her life before, and they were much less scary compared to the fear Neo was educing in Cinder. Neo then walked up to Cinder. Cinder thought she was about to stab her, but she walked past and took Aizawa off Zu. She then began to walk to the exit carrying Aizawa. Students, please make your way to the exit, Nezu said. One by one, the students in the main plaza made their way to the exit, Bakugo standing there in shock the longest. The 7 students then joined the other students. Cinder was taken away to have her leg looked at. Where's Izuku? Uraraka asked. He's Kirishima said, solemnly. He's dead. I failed to get help in time, Tenya said. No, he's not dead. He lost an arm and might lose his left eye, Kirishima said. What happened? Momo asked. Kirishima then explained what had happened. Afterwards he noticed that others were also missing. Hey, where's Koda, Ojiro, Takoyami, Shuji and Mina? Kirishima asked. Shuji and Takoyami are being treated over there. The others were taken away. They had all sustained injuries, but Shuji and Takoyami were the least hurt, Momo said. What happened to them? Shoto asked. We were attacked by the White Fang, Shuji said. Shuji, you should be resting. You're injured, Zu said. I've taken a worse beating from them before. This isn't my first time dealing with the White Fang, Shuji said. What is the White Fang? Shoto asked. The TLDR is that they're a terrorist organization that wants to whip out non-mutants. They had that warp gate villain warp us to the mountain zone and tried to get us to join them. Of course, we rejected their offer, Shuji said. But why didn't they warp me with you? I'm a mutant as well, Zu asked. Probably because you look more human than mutant. Quite ironic, Shuji said. Excuse me, I'm Detective Zukoki. I'm in charge of the investigation, and I couldn't help but overhear your conversation. Shuji, was it? What did you mean when you said you've dealt with them before? Zukoki asked. Shuji sized. The White Fang was a part of my life growing up. But they're not a part of my life anymore, Shuji said. I see. Still, I would like to ask you a few questions if you don't mind, Zukoki said. I don't mind, Detective, Shuji said. Shuji then left with the detective. What was that about? Kamari asked. He was part of the White Fang, Pikachu, Bakugo said. He's a terrorist, Kamari yelled. No, you idiot. He was probably brainwashed by them when he was a child, but he saw what they really are, a bunch of racists, Bakugo said. Bakugo. Language, Tenya said. Shut up, Four Eyes. It's the truth, Bakugo. Whilst the conversation continued, Neo was staring off in the direction of UA. A short while later, which felt like hours to Neo, the remaining members of Class 1 returned to UA. Alright students, go get changed, and Present Mick said. Neo then ran off into UA before Present Mick could finish. Present Mick was about to stop her, but he decided not to. Neo then burst into the infirmary. Standing there was All Might in his true form. Ah, Miss Vanille, All Might said. Neo ran past All Might and opened a curtain around the cot. Recovery Girl was at the side of the cot tending to Izuku. Don't worry, dearie. He'll live, Recovery Girl said. Neo began to tear up even more. She then knelt down and took Izuku's right hand, She then looked at Izuku's missing left arm. Sadly, without his arm, there's nothing I can do from him there, but I have managed to save his eye, though he'll most likely have a large scar where his face was decayed, Recovery Girl said. Neo's face was covered in her tears. She was sad about what happened to Izuku, but she was happy that he was alive. Neo would make sure everyone involved would get what they deserved. The three then heard the sound of frantic footsteps. "Let me see my baby," Inko said. All Might quickly buffed up into his hero form. "Izuku," Inko yelled, bursting into the room. "I'm truly sorry for what happened to your son." "I should have," All Might said. "I don't want to hear anything else other than the condition of my son," Inko said. "He's stable," Recovery Girl said. "But not fine," Inko said. "No. His arm wasn't able to be recovered." "I'm sorry, but there's nothing I can do," Recovery Girl said. How did this happen?" Inko asked. "I got careless. After they left, I didn't think they would return and try and get a cheap shot on me. Your son saved my life at the cost of his arm. I cannot apologize enough for what I let happen," All Might said, bowing on the ground. "Izuku always wanted to be a hero, even when we thought quirkless. Guess he got what he always wanted, I just don't think he had this in mind," Inko said. "We'll leave you two along with him. I've got to go attend to the others who were injured," Recovery Girl said. Recovery Girl and All Might then left the infirmary. Inko and Neo then spent several hours next to Izuku and then it was time for them to leave. However, Neo did not want to leave Izuku's side, and no matter how hard they tried they couldn't get Neo to leave. In the end Neo was allowed to stay at UA. She then soon fell asleep sitting on a chair next to Izuku's bed. Meanwhile, Cinder was walking home. Recovery Girl had healed her leg as good as new. Cinder turned a corner and was met by a purple mist. She then found herself in the League of Villains hideout. "How very rude, abducting a lady on her way home. Do you have no manners?" Cinder asked. "Shut up," Shigaraki said. Shigaraki then pinned Cinder against the wall. "Give me one good reason I shouldn't kill you right now." "You're lucky my master told me to let you explain yourself," Shigaraki said. "Straight to the point, I see." "Very well, I'll prove why you are so stupid," Cinder said. "Insult me again and you'll become dust," Shigaraki said. "Well, for starters it secures my position at UA. By killing your Nomu I saved All Might and several of my classmates. I'll be seen as a hero," Cinder said. "But that doesn't help us," Shigaraki said. "Let me finish. Also, it kept the police from doing DNA tests on the Nomu to try and find out what it is. This delays the heroes in finding out who your master is. And finally, I want to see how long it takes you to get a new one," Cinder said. "That wouldn't have been a problem if you didn't kill it," Shigaraki said. "Maybe, but for my master to create copies of your Nomu more people need to fear them. My master can only create Grim using the negative emotions and fears of people. The more common the fear, the easier it is for here to create them. And having 20 students fear your Nomu isn't enough," Cinder said. "And you neglected to tell us that piece of information," Shigaraki yelled. "Shigaraki, stand down," All for One said. "But Master," Shigaraki said. "We can deal with the loss of the Nomu," All for One said. Shigaraki then let Cinder go. "We can make more, but it'll take some time. If you want them as soon as possible, you'll get lower end Nomu. It takes a lot of time to make a Nomu as powerful or even more powerful," All for One said. "So they can be stronger?" Cinder asked. "Yes, the one you saw was a mid-end Nomu, though we do not have any high-end Nomu yet," All for One said. "Very well, now will you allow me to leave?" Cinder asked. "Kurogiri," All for One said. "Yes, Master," Kurogiri said. "Wait, that's it. She ruined our chance to kill All Might and you're letting her go. And what about the other villains that were caught?" "You just sacrificed them," the water villain said. "And you are?" Cinder asked. The water villain then attacked Cinder with stream of water. Cinder evaporated the water and shot a fire blast at the villain, sending him into a wall. A water quirk. Perfect. Just what I need, Cinder said. What are you blabbering about? The water villain asked. It's none of your business, Cinder said. Cinder then pulled out a white glove and aimed her palm at the villain. A black sticky substance then latched onto his face. The villain screamed out in pain as he was reduced to a husk. What did you just do? Shigaraki asked. I've made myself more powerful, Cinder said, a ball of water forming in her palm. The next day Recovery Girl entered the infirmary early in the morning. She saw that Neo was still by Izuku's side. Wakey wakey sleepyhead, Recovery Girl said. Neo stirred awake. You should go have a shower and get out of your hero costume, Recovery Girl said. Neo shook her head. She wasn't going to leave Izuku's side for a second. You are very dedicated to that young man, but you need to take care of yourself. He won't be going anywhere anytime soon, Recovery Girl said. Neo, Izuku said. Or maybe he will, Recovery Girl said. Neo turned around, tears in her eyes. Izuku was awake. What's the matter? Izuku asked. Neo then hugged Izuku. Izuku began to hug back, but he noticed that something was missing. Izuku looked to his left to see that his left arm was gone. What? What happened to my arm? Izuku yelled. Calm down, Izuku. What's the last thing you remember? Recovery Girl asked. We were in the USJ and were attacked by villains. 2 of them had fled and we began to relax. I then saw something behind All Might. I don't remember anything past that, Izuku said. The villains tried to get a cheap shot on All Might, but you foiled their attempt. It cost you your left arm and almost cost you an eye, Recovery Girl said. I see. How is everyone else? Izuku asked. Recovery Girl laughed. Lost an arm and you still care about others. Everyone else is fine. Some had sustained significant injuries, but they weren't as serious as yours. Now, Miss Vanille, go take a shower and get changed. You've been in that dirt and sweat-filled outfit since you got here and refused to move, Recovery Girl said. You've been with me all night? Izuku asked. Neo nodded. Thanks for being there for me, Trivia, Izuku said. Izuku paused for a moment, thinking back to his time with Neo. Trivia. There's something I need to tell you. Izuku said. Izuku was cut off by Neo kissing him. Izuku returned the kiss and the two began to make out. Excuse me, but if Izuku wants to go home today, I'll need you two to spot becoming melted ice cream, Recovery Girl said. Izuku and Neo blushed in embarrassment. Oh, right. Sorry. Izuku said. Neo then held up one finger. What is it? Izuku asked. Neo then pulled out her phone and took a picture as she kissed Izuku again. She then sent the picture to Inko and then left to go wash up and change. Be sure to grab Izuku's uniform, Recovery Girl said, as Neo left. Now. Your condition is stable, and I would like for you to stay here longer, but I understand that you would most likely want to go home, Recovery Girl said. I do want to go home, more so now, Izuku said. Very well. I shall start removing your bandages, after I heal you one more time, Recovery Girl said, kissing Izuku, activating her quirk on him. A while later Neo returned, now in her uniform. She saw the Pro Hero power loader with Izuku. This prosthetic was made to suit your quirk. It should be able to withstand your quirk at 100%, but only once per day. There are several lights on your arm that will go from green, to yellow, to red. Once it goes into the red, you should not use your quirk through it at all. There's a self-repair unit inside the arm, so you only need to wait for the arm to repair itself. If you want to add any upgrades, please come by the support department. That's if you continue your education at UA, Power Loader said. Right, Deku said. Deku hadn't thought about that. Would he be able to continue at UA? He knew his mother was overprotective of him, but he had lost an arm and did not want to worry her anymore. Izuku then thought about how this incident affected UA's and All Might's image. What would happen? Ah, perfect timing, recovery girl said, breaking Izuku's thoughts as he then noticed that Neo had returned. Neo set his uniform on his lap. Izuku reached for them using his new robotic arm. His movements were stiff. It'll take some time to get used to, Power Loader said. Right, Izuku said. Izuku continued to use his new arm to get changed. Soon enough Izuku hand changed and now he and Neo were walking out of UA, holding hands. Izuku had noticed that it seemed to be very quiet at UA, and the only light was the light from the sun. Why isn't anyone here? Shouldn't this place be full of students? Izuku asked. That's because UA is closed for the day, a voice said. The two turned around to see Principal Nezu and All Might. Principal Nezu. All Might, Izuku said. It's good to see that you have recovered and are up and about, Nezu said. It's good to be out and going home. But I wouldn't say I've recovered, Izuku said, looking at his new arm. Indeed, Nezu said. Young Midoriya, I'm sorry that I could not protect you. I should have been more aware of my surrounding. Especially in such a situation. And for that, I can only apologize and ask for forgiveness, All Might said, bowing down before Izuku. All Might, you don't need to apologize. All of us got careless, we should have all been more careful, Izuku said. But as your teacher I should be setting an example for you, All Might said. And you have. You've saved countless lives, risking your life for others. I did that yesterday, Izuku said. The mark of a true hero. Now for the reason we have sought the two you out. You two will be given a week off for you to recover and for Miss Vanille to be by your side. Also we will visiting you later on to discuss your future at UA. Whether you decide to stay or leave. UA will support you any way we can, Nezu said. Thanks, and may I ask, what's the backlash been like, Izuku said. Like usual, the media has jumped on this story, practically revealing in the fact that a first-year student has lost an arm, and calling into question UA's security and All Might as a hero. Your name hasn't been released to the public yet, but it will be after the initial investigation has concluded, Nezu said. I see. Then I would like to say something for the record, Izuku said. Very well, Nezu said. I do not blame UA or All Might for what happened to me. What happened to me were the results of my own actions, and I would do it again in a heartbeat, Izuku said. You really are a true hero, Nezu said. Thanks. Now I think we should get going. My mom is wanting to see me as soon as possible, Izuku said. How about I give you two a lift home then? It'll be much faster, and people won't be able to come to conclusion that you are the unnamed student, All Might said. Thanks, All Might. That would be great, Izuku said. Then let's go, All Might said. The three then left UA, and then All Might carried the two of them home. You are home, safe and sound. Now I must return to UA, there's a meeting about the incident today. I hope to see you two back at UA, All Might said. All Might then leapt away. Izuku and Neo then entered the apartment. Hi Mom, Izuku said. Izuku, Inko yelled, running up and hugging him. My baby is alright, Inko said. Well, not alright, Izuku said. Izuku, I know it's your dream too, Inko said. Mom, not now please. Can we discuss this when UA comes to talk about it, Izuku asked. Alright, Inko said. Back at UA. The police have investigated the group calling themselves the League of Villains. And there does not appear to be anyone registered with the name Shigaraki in his 20s or 30s with a quirk that lets him disintegrate whatever he touches. It's the same with the villain called Kurogiri with the warp gate. They are probably not citizens and are using false names. In other words, they are people with unregistered quirks who are part of society's underbelly. Zukorki said. You mean, we don't know anything, Vlad King said. About them, yes, but thanks Shuji we know more about the White Fang. We now know that the White Fang lieutenant is named Scourge, Zukorki said. What's the White Fang? Midnight asked. They're a mutant rights organization fighting for equality for mutants. Their main base is in America, but they have cells all over the world that act on their own but report back to the head of the organization, Hound Dog said. But Shuji called them terrorist, not a civil rights organization, Zukorki said. That's because the leaders of these cells are given independence on how they act. They range from ordinary protests to assassinations. Most of them tend to lean more towards peaceful measures, but some cells tend to be more violent. One such cell is in Japan, Hound Dog said. So, Scourge is the leader of this cell, Present Mick said. No, he's not the leader, he's just the leader's right hand. No one knows who the leader is. The only thing that is known is that they are male and they are the youngest leader, Hound Dog said. So why don't we go after them? They did participate in the USJ attack, Snipe said. That might not be the best course of action. A lot of mutants support the White Fang and trying to arrest their leaders might lead to an uprising. We need to be careful on how we act, Nezu said. I agree, but what worries me is that Shigaraki managed to get a bunch of low-level villains and the White Fang to go along with his crazy plan. The White Fang has never been the bold, Zukorki said. It seems like times are changing, for everyone, Nezu said. Back at the Midoriya residence, Neo and Izuku had spent the day cuddling on the sofa watching movies. They had just had dinner and Izuku had turned in early for the night. Neo was about to join him, but Inko stopped her. Trivia, I have a gift for you, Inko said, presenting a present to Neo. Neo opened the gift and blushed at the contents inside. I'll be staying somewhere else tonight, so you don't need to worry about keeping me up, Inko said. Inko then winked and left the apartment. Izuku was in his room on his phone looking at the news. All of them were talking about the attack at the USJ. Izuku sighed and fell back onto his bed. Izuku then noticed the door to his room opening. Oh, Trivia, I guess you'd like to sleep with me too, Izuku said. Izuku then saw what Neo was wearing. She was wearing laced bra and panties, with a sexy baby doll dress on top. Izuku blushed profusely and he could see that Neo was blushing as well. Trivia. What are you? Izuku asked. Izuku was then cut off by Neo running up and leaping into his bed, kissing him. The two embraced each other and starting moaning as they touched each other. The two then spent the whole night participating in intimate actives. Meanwhile, the captured White Fang members were being transported to prison. All of a sudden, a slice of red energy sliced clean through the police convoy, completely cutting the vehicles in half. The White Fang members climbed out of the destroyed police vans to see Scourge and a man with red hair, bull horns, and wearing a mask. We've got work to do, the man said. End of chapter 8.